Peggy, how you doing, Peggy? You out there looking at this movie? What's up? Trail run is the most important thing. That's where everything gets sorted out. You're the big guys. I ain't got a desert. No cars and shit. It's all a huge Tetris game in my head. I sorted out on the trails. You know what I mean? 4 hours at a time, once a week. And it's better. And it's like antipsychotic drugs and a motherfucking therapist. Get out of here, man! We're off to Asia! Let go! Bottom ball in a library, like a big stuck up in a tree, like somebody else's memories that just really me. When you see you, it's so selfish. You can laugh and dream. You can laugh and dream.
Eastbound down, roll it up and chug it. We gon' do what they say can be done. We got a long way to go, and it's short time to get there. Eastbound on one abandoned road. I went to St. Mark's School, walked to and from this parochial school, and I had like a little pillow. It was like this. It was orange, and it had a desktop on it, and a little thing to hold your pencil. So I was sitting on the floor after school watching the monkeys. That's the monkeys. Every day I'm watching the monkeys, and I had this little thing, and I was always writing. When I was writing, I was writing the rock opera. All right, I'm like I don't know, 4th or 5th grade, and I had this big rock opera I was writing. It's the same one I'm still writing. It's just the same one. I started it when I was like 4th or 5th grade or whatever.
I first met Tude, oh my God, I was in 8th grade, 13 years old, and I was friends with Matt McAwee, who went to St. Mark's with me. Tude was a grade above us, but I didn't know at the time. And I met Matt McAwee, and I went to his room in his basement, and he had a drum set. That's the first time I knew he played drums. I'm like, wow, you got a drum set? He said, yeah, I know this guy, Dave Linantud. He plays guitar, and we're thinking about getting together and playing music. And I was like, I didn't know how to play any instruments or anything, but I wanted to be involved. And I said, all right, I'm going to sing. And they're like, okay, you can be the singer. So that's how it worked.
When he was growing up, David was, the prankster, right, Laura?
Yeah, yes.
And I think that the first time that he ever exhibited to me, other than the fact that he and John collected all the records on the 3rd floor, they had their room on the 3rd floor, and there was always music, and they enjoyed it. Both of them enjoyed it, and Laura enjoyed it. And of course, Jenny was real small then. Was when he was in St. Mark's School, and Sister Janet Mary allowed him, and I don't know who was it, might have been Eddie Tolan, and to play the guitars on the stage at some homeschool gathering or something, and it was after someone died. It was a Beatles song, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Helter Skelter.
Sister Janet let them go and do this thing because he was so in love with John Lennon, Dave Linantud, at that age. I didn't even know who John Lennon really was at that point, but I was soon to find out.
And they did it like a school assembly, and it didn't fit in at all, so it was probably like a holiday assembly or something like that. And they got to play that, they covered it, or they lip-synced it, and he and like 3 of his friends, I can't remember.
Yeah, they did. And so
Yeah,
that
Helter
was, I
Skelter.
think, for the beginning of David Music Linantud. He was probably in like the 6th, 7th grade.
I'd say 6th.
6th, something like that.
We played at St. Mark's a year after a dance. It was like me and Dave Linantud and Quinn, Mike Quinn and Matt McAwee. And Dave Vincent was even involved, and we were horrible, frankly. We were horrible.
First memories that I have of David and music, we were pretty much a music family, all of us, and they were, and I just kind of followed along because they're John, David, Laura were 1 year apart, and I was 5 or 6 years away from Laura. So my earliest memories are of listening to music in their room. They had the 3rd floor room at my mom's house, and we were always listening to music, always listening to the Beatles, always listening, mostly the Beatles, mostly the Monkees.
to me,
I wasn't
man,
playing.
if it wasn't for Dave, I don't think I'd be playing. I don't think I'd be in a band. I definitely wouldn't be in a band doing original music. Dave was, I remember plain as day, like a movie in my head. It was like 1986, 87, whatever. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and we were it was like high school guys, St. Joe guys, and we walked from my house to Dave's house. It was the summertime, and we went into the basement, and we walked in there, and they were playing Death or Glory by The Clash. And I just remember, like, it had such an impact on me. I remember, like, plain as day today. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. It's great. And it was like, you know, this dirt basement, graffiti around, dirt basement, and just seeing it. That was the first time I really experienced and I think I was playing in like a cover band then, like an 80s cover band or whatever, stupid shit. But I just remember going in there and I was like, this is wild. And I was young, and I remember Dave, and he was like so intimidating. Like, I was always intimidated by Dave because he's an intimidating dude, a big dude. But once I knew him and got to know him, like, he's a teddy bear. He's just a great guy. He's an awesome guy.
He's the whole reason for everything of me being musically influenced. He basically gave me a sheet of paper, and he had dots written on these frets that I didn't know what they were. And he said, "This is where you put your fingers."
The term for it anthropologically is folk music. So I started learning about that, specifically electric guitar bands by white men sung in English. And the next logical step after you do Beatles, and this is, we're talking like early 80s now, I'm in high school, maybe a little before that, but punk rock, right? Punk rock is a big thing, obviously. It's awesome. I mean, I was alive when the Clash were alive. I remember, I was already had my musical taste formed. I was in high school when Rock the Casbah came out, and I could never understand why people, as you know, I played guitar by then, I could never understand why people would like dismiss punk rock as some sort of like rudimentary sort of thing that didn't require any talent. I'm listening to the Clash, and I'm listening to combat rock, and I'm like, this is as complicated as motherfucking Sgt. Pepper. There was a disconnect, that's the disconnect of propaganda. But what did happen in 1984 was the record Let It Be by the Replacements, which changed my life to the point of a person who likes rock and roll, loves it, to someone who said, this pretty much looks to be the entire meaning for existence. Let It Be by the Replacements was the one. That's the point that I became serious about learning the guitar and saying, well, I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life.
I think, he started writing music, and then he would play when we went to the beach as a family. He would do like his little acoustic things that everybody loved. He would play, the Rolling Stones or whatever, and everybody would sing along to it. But he always had his other band. So
He was in high school. He had his band, the first band, I think, and they used to play here, practice in the basement, and have all their little parties. And he was, they're the earliest memories of David, and it's always just been a part of him since then. I think that he, if I thought two words for David, would be he's creative and he's intelligent.
yeah, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. They would have parties in the basement. They'd set up the stage in between my mom's washer and dryer. There was kind of a platform because my mom has a wet basement. So the band would set up there, and just tons of people would come. I would sneak downstairs. At that time, I was probably, 11 or 12, and just seeing the whole scene, seeing people moved by music, and especially like my brother being in the center of it, was pretty awesome. So that started, my mom was very tolerant, very, very tolerant when it came to parties.
And then he gave me a guitar. He actually gave me a guitar. Now, it was a cheap guitar. I know, it was a green hollow body guitar with a whammy bar.
Catonsville, and good friends with Dan Knight and Beaumont Avenue, which was just a hangout spot when we were kids. And I met Dave through Dan, just hanging out over Dan's house. And Dave was a couple years older than me, so he used to take the bus to Loyola when we were at St. Mark's, and the bus would pick up at St. Mark's. So I remember he was just cutting through the Knight's backyard and we'd be hanging out.
A lot of parties on the low line. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, I'm a little younger, so I kind of came in on the probably tail end of the crazy parties, but I think then we got to the point where Dave may have been out of the house, but we kind of continued the tradition and kept it going for quite a few years after that.
There were like joint parties between a lot of Dave's friends, a lot of Laura's friends. Dave was always, I'll just tell you, like, I remember being a couple years younger than me, hanging out with Dan Knight across the street. We were listening to like The Clash and U2 and stuff, or whatever MTV was kind of force feeding us. And one thing I remember about Dave was he was way into the Beatles. And for me, the Beatles were like, you know, She Loves You, yeah, 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 like, shit my parents listened to. And he turned me on to like Rubber Soul and Revolver and Abbey Road, and kind of opened up a whole thing for me because I didn't really listen to the Beatles. But when I heard those records, it just blew me away. You know? So that was real influential to me.
You know, Dave was the first guy I ever knew that really, lived that rock and roll lifestyle. And I know he was a huge influence on Jenny, music-wise, and that kind of carried over to a lot of our friends. Because they were obviously a very musical family.
I don't know, like to me, like when I think about the Catonsville music scene and everything, like I feel like he's the top of the pyramid. He's like what I think, and that's just only my time. Like I'm not saying he's like the king of Catonsville or whatever like that, but like during growing up in my time, like he was the first person I knew that wrote music and was in a band, and I actually got to see perform.
The thing that first comes to mind is the band called Kona, which had Bill Prestiani, Eric Strout, and myself from Ellicott City. And then Mount St. Joseph had a battle of the bands. And this was kind of, let's say, historic for the interpersonal relationships between Kona. But at the battle of the bands, and I remember this very distinctly, there were 3 or 4 bands, and Dave had consolidated a feeling around both the covers that he played, and I think he had 1 or 2 originals. And I grew up in the band room at Mount St. Joe with a guy named Phil Lathram, right? And Phil Lathram was a rock-steady drummer at that time, and he joined Dave to back him up for his group. But anyway, they won that thing, and they really encapsulated a great energy.
And then the next band that did anything would be Silent Majority, named after those who elected Nixon twice. And that was Tony and Phil Lathram and Mike Murphy. We won a battle of the bands, and we only did one of my songs. It's always been, I'm telling you, it's always been a struggle to get motherfuckers to play my goddamn song.
Then, after we graduated from high school, then I got together with Dave down the ocean, and we wrote a couple songs, and he taught me a lot about guitar playing, a whole bunch of things. So, yep. So that was the meeting officially between Kona pre-Catonsville, and then Kona eventually meeting Dave and Ed, and then I was the bridge between Ellicott City and Catonsville, because I was playing music with both of them. Like, okay, Kona sucks. We need some energy, right? And Dave had a great singer-songwriter element to it, and of course Eric's from Catonsville, so it just naturally all came together, and we had a very short Kona thing for about a year.
Kona and Dave were really, really fun because there was so many of us in that band. Strout, Prestiani on drums, Bidet, Tude, me, and Prestiani's girlfriend sang the hard songs and the pretender songs. But they were really cool. We practiced and we'd go to Bidet's house, who's now a doctor of music, and I'd play bass one song. After a song, we'd like switch instruments. Like we'd end the song, and I'd like, all right, here's your bass, and I got rhythm guitar, and you got this, and then Bidet would pick up the sax. It was like You couldn't transition into a song right after a song because we all had to switch instruments, but we all played different instruments every song. I even played keyboards on some of the songs, which is bizarre because I don't know the first thing about playing a keyboard.
He had talent because he never took a lesson, and I offered those at one time, and he said, you know, he didn't need them or whatever.
David and John brought like the Beatles into my life. Like that's not even an exaggeration. So when Mom talks about all the LPs they had upstairs and they played music constantly, and we used to go, like every summer we would go to Ocean City, you know, for a couple weeks for vacation, and they had a turntable in the back of the station wagon and they would play Beatles records. And so that to me was like, I'm like, what is this music? You know, it's awesome. And then David, you know, he's really the one who introduced me to the Replacements, who is like my favorite band of all time now. You know, like Paul Wester is my favorite musician ever. And so that was really because of David.
We lived together at the beach when I graduated, and we lived together in a loft. And his songs, we played songs all the time up there. We would party up in the loft. Groups would come up and we would play his songs. He had a ton of them. You know, he was a great songwriter. I don't know if he just didn't realize it at the time or what was going on, but he was just pumping out these songs.
But there is one song, and he played it at the Oktoberfest, and it was, I don't even know the actual name of it, but it's a song about coffee and stale cigarettes. Realized that at the Oktoberfest that it was Mrs. Linantude's favorite song. Okay. Dave said it, but I first heard that song when I was in the 8th grade or 9th grade. We were in Ocean City at Jenny's mom's place. She had a condo on the beach, and we were hanging around and partaking in everything an 8th grader or 9th grader should. And Dave was playing just solo acoustic act, and he sang that song for his mom and for all of us. It was probably 20 of us sitting in the condo. That was the first time I heard it, and it was, it stuck with me for all these years. I mean, and when he played it at Oktoberfest, I thought it was just phenomenal.
My first drum set was a 4-piece Silver Sparkle Pearl that I bought from a former Washington Redskin out of the Washington Post, classified as. My dad matched me dollar for dollar. I think the set cost $150. The second set I bought was also out of the Washington Post from a guy down in California, Maryland. It was $500, but it was a 7-piece Blue Sparkle Slingerland with Zildjian cymbals and hard cases, and I really thought I was something when I got that. And that's the drum set I had all the way up to college when I started playing with Dave Linantud and Love and Hate, which became Forgotten Sons.
I mean, it was always going out to see musicals a part of my life, I know your guys' life, but my life as a younger person, I was pretty young on the scene at that point. But and then when he went to College College Park, his band was Forgotten Sons, and I just thought they were amazing.
And then when he did Forgotten Sons, like that was definitely influential to me. Like that, I remember going to backyard parties or whatever, and watching these guys and saying that's just wild. He had such an influence on me. I don't think people realize it. I don't even think Dave realizes it. But I don't know if I would be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for him. And definitely not like later in it's not a career, but later in my life.
But and then in college, he had that Forgotten Sons band with Andy Oak, and Joel Bailey, and Egbert. Who was the other guy? Elwood. That's right. At some point in time, I thought to myself, you know, David needs to do something different, you know, and have a career. I mean, a traditional way of thinking. And it was a little worrisome to me as his mother. And I remember saying something to David years and years ago. And he said, "You don't understand, Mom. I am music." So,
Yeah, that's right.
that was David.
Yeah.
It's a song about the plot coming up on some Ridley children.
Then I went to College Park to try to find a band. That's the reason I went down there. It wasn't for to get a degree or study. I just needed to find a band, and I did. Played it. Initially, we were Love and Hate, and then there was that band Love Hate. Remember them from the late '80s? The hair band, a garbage band of losers. It kind of be like, say one would take a picture of vomit and diarrhea, and then transpose that into music. That's what they sounded like and looked like. So we had to change our name to Forgotten Sons, right? And this was not as much of a struggle to get them to play my songs, because, you know, we're older now. I'm a college.
Well, then Ryan Venner comes into ATO and he goes, "Hey, I know a guy from the dorms, Dave Tude, Linantud, and he's a wild man. Let me put you guys together." So Ryan brings him to a party, and Dave's like, "Fraternity guys, dicks. I mean, they pay for friendship. What a bunch of losers." And he walked in the door, and this is his words, not mine. What he told me, he said, he's never seen anything that close to Animal House in his life. He was like, "This is like, y'all are for real. This is the whole swinging from the chandeliers, kegs throwing through the window, and up all night, all day, 72-hour bingers, and girls running around, and guys riding motorcycles through the lawn and through the house, and it just everything. It was craziness." And he liked it, and I liked it. And we liked it, and we put together a set list and said, "Hey, you want to play this party at ATO?" Then Joel and Dave became like Jagger, Richards, Lennon, McCartney. I mean, like, those two were unstoppable.
I first met Dave when I was in college. Me and Dave and Ryan formed this band called Godzilla. Remember Godzilla? We had this band called Godzilla. So it started out, basically we did a 4-track recording. I don't know if that still exists anymore, but we did this 4-track recording. We had practice every Friday, and it was around 11 or 12
He had the
o'clock.
4-track. He bought it.
He had a 4-track.
remember it. I remember
he
it
had
to this day.
4-track, and then
at that time it was a great piece of
it. Great. And as a matter of fact, almost every one of those songs we did back then. This is when I was in college. This was 1993. Yeah, I think it was my senior year. Because I had volleyball in the morning. I got out of volleyball at 11. We had practice right after that. And the rule was you had to finish a beer performance. You had to have a Budweiser on the board. That was easy. So at some point, Ryan started getting, I don't know, I don't know if he just didn't want to do it anymore, he didn't feel like telling us, but Ryan stopped coming to the practices. So me and Dave used to call him up all the time over at Peggy's. Ryan, can you come over and we're gonna practice today, man? Come on over. And we're like, hey, can you stop by the Kate and pick up a case of Budweiser? And Dave smoked cigarettes at the time. Like, I didn't actually smoke back then, but Dave did. And he said, oh yeah, and swing by 7-Eleven and get a pack of cigarettes. Pack of Marlboro Lights.
He probably smoked the Reds.
And every time Ryan would say, yeah, I'll be over, he'd motherfucking never show up. He would never show up.
What was going on?
I was just blown away by these songs that we were putting together. And like I said, in Society Fringe Players, he still does a lot of these songs, and he does them in the opera that he's written. So and when I hear the songs now, it's so funny because they record them, and I'm hearing these songs. I'm like, played those back in Godzilla, and Godzilla never played a live show up until Oktoberfest, and you actually got on stage and played with us back in Oktoberfest. That was really fun. Jennings, and we did a couple of cover songs, so that was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm thinking of you now. Your visions in my head. I've been dreaming of you now. I can't get to sleep instead. What's so goddamn wrong with me? Oh, I can't sleep. Now, wouldn't you know, I got another idea for a character. A guy by the name of Old Drivey. D-R-I-V-E-Y. Old Drivey. Here's a funny thing about Old Drivey. See, Old Drivey got a twin brother, and that twin brother's Old Posty. But see, nobody knows where Old Drivey's coming from, and nobody knows where Old Drivey's going to. He's just driving, all the time driving. We know he's driving because we see him in the video that his twin brother, Old Posty, does. And this is the way he's talking about him around the campfire. Yeah, Old Drivey. I don't ever see him at the campfire, but I see them videos of him driving. Old Drivey.
The Paragon all the time, and I just remember, like, Dave was just Dave was rock and roll. He's still rock and roll.
Dave's writing. I gotta write a song too. So you guys write too. Actually, good songwriters. Joel Elwood, Scott Elliott, Joe Bailey, and everybody was good songwriters. I mean, it's not like they were bringing crappy songs. These songs are pretty good.
I met him through the whole scene with Feedback and Sporadic Sun Jam and all that in the early days. And then he was in a band called Doom Cookie. We used to do some stuff with Doom Cookie, and then in between lapses when I was in and out of bands, he used to call me, and you know, in the early stages, Dave was making he was making some rock opera, and he'd always be like, hey man, Cabbage, I really want you to come jam. So that early on in the early 90s, I actually went to Dave's parents' house. And we would sit in the basement, and I worked on some of the early rock opera stuff that Dave was doing that I'm sure he's gone on to record, because I know he's been doing a lot with it.
But at the same time, we were playing in a band called Doom Cookie. So there's this separate. There's Doom Cookie, which is Dave's original band, and then there was this, I guess, greatest hits of Catonsville musicians. We played at Spittles, at Egghead, Midday. Ryan played bongos, you and Dave, and we used to rock Spittles' basement, and man, we packed
What
that
are
place.
some of the
We also took turns singing.
Everybody could sing
every songs,
and we did. I didn't really sing.
Ryan's hands bled.
You know,
his hands were blood.
A friend of mine I was playing with, he's a bass player. His name was Chris Plummer. Me and him were looking for someone to play with. And he called me up and said he found this ad, this guy in Catonsville, and played all original rock and roll. Was looking for a bass player and a drummer. And I said, well, Catonsville, convenient. And he said, yeah, it's kind of weird, man. It says some weird stuff. I was like, what do you mean? What's it say that's weird? It says no racist. And I was like, that's not weird, that's cool. So then me and Chris set up a time, went over there and played with Dave in his mom's basement.
Barth lost his glasses.
Yeah, I lost my glasses. And we played Sherman's March, was one of the songs we played.
And then college ended, didn't graduate. And I came to Baltimore. I moved back to Baltimore. And funny enough, this is all kind of chronicled in the opera that I'm recording here, is SFP called 1993. So in Baltimore, I spent a lot of time troubadouring, as I call it, just me playing by myself, playing my songs. And then I joined up in a band with Porky, who's playing with me tonight, and his buddy Mike Kerr, who's Doom Cookie. Now Doom Cookie was pretty fun, and that ended not before Chris Plummer took over for Mike Kerr. So it's still the three-piece. Playing my songs, me, Pork, Little Barry Jr., me, Pork, and Plummer.
I remember one time we were at the bank, and I think it was Doom Cookie, and I just remember standing next to these two guys who were never, I mean, they didn't know us. They weren't part of our Catonsville circle or whatever, and they were listening to the band, and I was kind of listening to them talk, and the one guy was very complimentary of David, and I remember him saying something about how he had a rockabilly Bono thing going on, and that always stuck in my head. I was like, kind of, because I know Bono is a huge influence on him and stuff. And
we set up a time for Dave to come over to my practice space. Drummers always gotta have practice space, and I was like, why don't you record some songs? And I'll learn them. And Dave's like, I'm getting ready to go to the Philippines for like a month or something. I was like, well, it's a perfect time. I'll learn them while you're away. And and I'm thinking he's gonna come over record 3 or 4 songs. They record 30 some songs. Over the course of an afternoon, he's just banged them out one after another. And I was just like, oh shit, man, this guy's got material, And then, but I tried to play it cool. I was like, oh yeah, man, sounds cool, sounds great.
We played a couple of them today.
Yeah, that's right. And then Dave left. And I started learning the songs, but everybody I knew that I would play music with, I was like, listen to these songs. Listen to this guy's stuff, man. It's awesome. And then when it came back, we started playing together, and I had an old friend of mine who's a bass player, who's really a learned musician, and he could just pick shit up real quick. And that was Doom Cookie, the first version.
Well, you know what? The question actually is, why do you do things that aren't playing music? When you're born to play, that's what you do. It's the stuff that you're doing around the times when you're playing music. It is the weird parts. Play music is existence.
Hold this a second for that, please. While I spread blood off of my knees. Yeah, please excuse me. If it stings, I just came in from overseas. I've been thinking about
you. Everybody else had a half-assed interpretation of what it's like to come see a show, I guess. I don't know. Everybody else right now is sucking the big fat dick.
He was rowdy and obnoxious, just like the rest of us were at the time. Like, as usual, we were all like boisterous, loud, obnoxious musicians, just having a good time. I didn't really get to really know him until, you know, Circle 9 years, and then as we've gotten older together in life. But, you know, at first it was like we're just a bunch of drunk kids having a good time, liked to party, and that was it. And then the more you get to talk to him, you're like,
well, I'm a small town slum, and I hate the big city. Can smoke in restaurants and bitches better be too pretty. Everyone's a fake with the cell phone drink. Fucking punk jerks, condescending, money clinging, guns and tons of child gallons drawn all over me. Dead trees, kids on crack, high finance and with spec. Got your suit and ties, I mean, your phony show business. Fucks, they suck, life sucks, so what? So I'm heading on out to the strip club desert, gonna get me a woman. Sleet out west to the spook Pacific Ocean, well, West Mexico. Here I go, here I go, here I go, here I go, yeah.
Then one day you were like, hey man, fuck this, man. Let's call Dave and get a crazy rock and roll band together, like a straight up rock and roll band. I was like, all right, man, that sounds like a good idea. We'll try it. I was like, I don't know how it'll work, but we'll try it. Because they were thinking like, fuck it, you know, we're all like, you know, like Dave is just Dave. Dave's a big personality and got his mindset on what he wants to do.
Come on, man.
You had our mindsets we wanted to do, so we were like, well, fuck it, man, let's combine it and see what happens. And like, you know, and it was like, oh shit, all of a sudden it was like we were the biggest, like most obnoxious rock and roll band in fucking Catonsville, probably in all of Baltimore, actually.
Dennis says, you want to join me and Joe and Paul Kellerman, right? On drums, I said, well, I'm only coming along if Porky comes with me. So that's what happened. And that's what Circle 9 was born. And that would be me, Dennis, Joe, and Port. We put out If It Was Up Your Ass, You'd Know It, which to me is still a great record. I fucking love it. No issues about trying to get people to play my songs anymore. That kind of died with Dave Tude. Finally had people going, oh my God, such a struggle. It's my struggle.
Circle 9 was definitely kind of unhinged, and you were part of it. You know, it was pretty unhinged. It was pretty wild. And Dave, you know, Dave back then, Dave used to drink, and Dave was probably one of the reasons we got kicked out of so many places. You know what I mean? We'd all get wild, but you know, Dave was just like on another level, man. With some stuff, you know, Dave would like be going over to Peter's house and be like, yeah, and spitting on the floor and shit and punching holes in the wall. Dave is relentless, and you gotta respect that. Dave is relentless. He is a never-ending songwriter. Dave's someone that appreciates. Dave understands that. You know, a lot of times people see Dave as a very like, you know, stubborn, bullheaded kind of guy, because he does portray himself that way. He's a very opinionated, very upfront guy, but he's like I think Ryan said earlier, like Dave's a big teddy bear ultimately. You know, he's a really gentle, nice guy, really sweet guy. He has a very abrasive personality to a lot of people, but that's part of Dave's character.
Chasing after is a couple in front of my eyes. Every afternoon in my caddy told you, baby, everybody tell me the cars. Everybody's after the reality check, and I'm afraid to rock a man apart. But tooth in your pocket and you try to build a rocket out of two big Santa soul. With the good years later, and the love never changing, and the good figure hanging on the road. So you try to find a reason not to live a life of pain, and I wait up on a hope it doesn't come. Never get surrender, even though you can't remember when you did it all just for fun.
You guys know I like to do trail running, and
This summer I'm training at 10 miles, right? At the halfway point, I need to take some supplements. And the best way to take supplements is to smoke them. So here we go. All right. All right, I can feel the anti-inflammatory effects already. Woo!
Who said he didn't listen to music. He did not like music. And it was so bizarre to me. Like, I'm not sure I've met any other people since then. That was like 30-some years ago. He was, we were like, we had to go, we were somewhere. And I was like, put some music on. What do you like to listen to? Just, offhandedly. He was like, I don't listen to music. I was like, what? Yeah, no, I don't like the music. I was like, what the fuck's the matter with you?
Do you mind if I listen?
Yeah, that is...
What'd you say? Do you mind if I listen to it? I'd rather you not.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't even want me to listen to it.
What the fuck?
We're gonna have a big problem.
Dave and I got along really good. I mean, it was like anybody, we could butt heads sometimes, but it wasn't like we argued or anything. It was just that there was so much, like, we would take things so much to the fucking extreme sometimes. We would just stop and look at each other and be like, holy fuck, what did we just do? That's crazy, I can't believe it. It'd be like, oh shit. So it was shortly after Halloween, and it was cold. And so, the heat in there wasn't good. So we threw a bunch of wood into the fireplace. It had some cobwebs, a bunch of just Halloween cobweb shit rolled up on it, and then it just got tossed into the fucking fire. You know, a bunch of knuckleheads fucking throwing a bunch of cobwebs into the fireplace. So we're all sitting around, warming up, doing our typical practice routine, you know, warming up, having a few beers, smoking a little bit, you know, doing all that fun stuff. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, I think it was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I like came to, and I was like, oh man, my head fucking, what happened? And I look around and everyone's like out, like, but kind of like oozing a little bit and stuff, and the whole room is like got this smoke going on. And I look at the clock, and it's like, meanwhile it was 9 o'clock when I was sitting there talking to everybody. Now it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, and nobody knows what happened, and the place is, and I'm like, I can't breathe, and my head's going, I was like, I gotta open a window. All of a sudden, like, everyone starts like, coming up, you know, and like, basically, we had burned all that fucking toxic cobwebs in the practice space with no windows open or anything, so it knocked every single one of us out and probably almost killed us. But, you know, it was like fucking a miracle that, you know, like I woke up and was like, holy shit, man, we're all gonna die. You know, and like, so we're all like sitting there, like, people are barfing, and like, it was fucked up, man. So we almost all died in the practice space that night.
We would have blankets out just to watch TV in our TV room when we were younger. And if I was laying on the blanket, he would run in, scoop me up in the blanket, and just hit me, and just throw me against the wall. That was pretty, I don't know if it was annoying. I mean, I think I liked it on some level.
I don't know how young you are when you start to get like in trouble, you know. And Mom would say, we had a couch right over there, and one time, I don't know what we did, but David and I got in trouble, and our punishment was to sit on the couch. And the biggest punishment for David was to sit in silence, because he couldn't do it. So we were sitting there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I can't believe I got in trouble, because I was kind of like a goody-goody, you know. I'm like, oh my God, Mom's mad at me. And David would just sit and just poke me. And he would poke me until I would yell or get myself in more trouble.
I went to her once when I was a kid, and I actually sat her down and said, Mom, I really don't want to be poked and tickled. I don't like it, and I really want you to say something to David about it, because I don't like it.
So that was like how he was. He was like the poker, or like he would do that to you, and he was like
really in big trouble.
He would put throw pillows on top of the doors, so when you walk through the door, the throw pillows would fall on your head. He wouldn't even be around, you know. He would just do it and just hope that it would hit somebody later or whatever. So you're always kind of looking over your back.
He jumped in on like the Circle 9 stuff is when, you know,
Okay.
I was listening to him really, like seeing him. I remember there's a house up on Tongue Road in Elphick City, and he played some basement parties with the roasted pig and all that stuff. And just the one thing that blew me away was that the War Between the States album. It was right around, it reminds me a lot of Southern Rock Opera by Drive-By Truckers. You know, same type of themes, and that's the same year it came out.
It's been a mainstay of what I do in the world. I've only taken a break one time in all the time since I was 13, and that was after Circle 9 broke up.
The walls come and go, may this country see, we'll all be at a time, fight for General Robert E. Lee. June is hot and I miss my mom, true. Cause is white, I'm here, son, how about you?
You know that Johnny Cash song? He didn't write it. Because I'm like a soldier getting over the war. That to me was always, that Circle 9 was so fucking intense.
It was a breakup. Like I was like heartbroken, and I didn't want to play with anybody because I was just like, man, I just need to take a break because it was so intense and so often. You know, I mean, in the heyday of Circle Line, we were practicing 5 nights a week. You know what I mean?
That thing we did last May was so cathartic. This is kind of not what you're asking, but anyway, fuck it, just to see Joe and hang out with Joe again was like, man, it's like it was so wonderful.
There's so much
I
we've
love
gone
it
through,
so much.
you know?
We did it for like 15 years. That was a long time. And we went through a lot of shit and a lot of stuff and worked really hard and traveled a lot. It was tough and it was just took its toll and it was just like, man, I just need to like kick back and like, I felt like it, for me at the end there, Circle 9, it wasn't, it's all the ugly side of music, like where you spend so much time like trying to get all the stuff together, traveling, trying to do that stuff, where in reality you're not spending a lot of quality time playing music. You're spending time doing all the other bullshit that you're trying to get to play music. So like for me it was getting disgusting and I was like, fuck this, man. I want to play music. I don't want to do all this other bullshit. It's like if I'm not going to be doing it 4 or 5 times a week, fuck it. If I can do it 2 or 3 times a week where it's quality and it's wonderful and I'm not dealing with a bunch of other bullshit, then fuck it. So that's where it came to me. I just needed to step away and just enjoy the love and just magic of fucking playing music, you know.
Come on, Jackson, some true shining. March up through the north, like his own back porch. Ha!
None of us had played together. I seen Joe maybe twice since the end of Circle 9.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It took maybe a third of the first practice, so everything was just like it was. Fucking 15 years ago, it was fucking crazy. It was wonderful.
Summer grass room. South Florida corn. Smell that pagan charm. Cool.
No man can catch a vibe. She don't think much of guys. Women might do bullshit, talking trash. But her it just ain't funny, man. She made her way to Bay 9. Heard the words of every time she's seen it. But she's coming back again.
Well, I feel alright, I'm a bit uptight. I'm on a transport boat, it's like a new remote. Got a float of some like a number one. Have another one loaded half a gun.
Dave was the one that reached out to me because I stopped after Sunjam. I stopped playing for I don't know what 10 years, and Dave reached out to me and called and said, "Hey, I got this project going on. I'd like you to play drums." And I was like, and the kids were grown and. It's like, it sounds awesome. I was like, I don't have a fucking drum set because I gave my drum set away, but I have a first act kit for like toddlers I can use. And I used that for like the first couple practices or shows. and we ended up doing the product. And the product was awesome, and that was fun. And working with Brendan and working with Dave, and it was a good time.
Dave just kind of contacted me because he knew me from going to these shows and knew what I did about just like recording like demos of his songs. He had all these songs that he wanted to do, and he would start talking about the opera. And so I would just go up to his house and hang out, and he'd play stuff on acoustic guitar, and I would record him on either initially an iPhone, and then I had like a handheld digital recorder, and I would get these just rough recordings of him getting these songs together. And part of it was just me kind of like learning the songs, but it was also just so he had recordings of these things that he could go back to. He started talking about, hey, how do we find a drummer? How do we do this or that? And eventually we found Ryan. And we started, practicing over at Dave's sister Jenny's basement, and it clicked pretty quickly.
Jingle time for your jeans. Here's your rhyme and your beers. Any kind, buy them all. I don't mind hearing sunshine. Good for you, mission or two. Here for you, save you time. Jingle fuck, sing or die.
That's my whole philosophy. It's kind of like a band leader, is you get talented people together and see what they come up with. Because everything's ephemeral. Nothing is set in stone. Everything is liable to change at any second, and that's the point of the whole fucking thing. Constant creativity.
That was a good feeling because it was almost, I would say, like almost a year between when Dave and I started hanging out. Maybe once a week, once every other week or so, to when we found Ryan. This is his project. This is his passion.
There's some people, and I don't put myself in this category or level of success or notoriety or brilliance or greatness that you'd find in a Bob Dylan or a Neil Young, but I liken myself to them in that there are people that can't escape music. You just can't escape it. You can't not play it.
I really enjoyed it because that was one thing, is like Dave gave me the freedom to experiment with some of that stuff. And you can hear it because if you hear like stuff that I played on and maybe somebody else played that at a show or they ended up recording it, there's two totally different interpretations, but they both work. And Dave never said to me or anybody else that I know of, like, no, don't play it like this, play it like that. If it was because it didn't fit him, not because somebody else had played it that way.
I've been playing drums since I was 7 years old. It's all I ever wanted to do. I've done it longer than anything else except, breathe or, exist. But to exist now is to be in music. And, we laugh at our level, the garage band level, or the old punker that's getting back in to do whatever, is that if we were in it for the money, we'd have quit years ago. So it's not about accumulating fame or amassing fortunes. It's about letting out this demon, letting out this angel. There's both sides. It's a blessing, it's a curse.
I think he has an amazing voice, and it's something that goes overlooked. I mean, when you hear him live, it's raw and it's undeniable. When you take it into a studio and you put it on a recording, it's really difficult to capture and really, tame it. because Dave wants his recordings raw.
Seem to have a knack of pulling people together, of getting people to play music together, and like brings certain stuff out of people. Like, I don't know, it kind of stems from some of our parties of like, he always encouraged jamming and playing with other people, like feeling out, like if you learn this guy's trick and this guy's trick and this guy's trick, then your bag of tricks becomes bigger. Like playing with other people and learning, like just being able to jam with people, and it wasn't so close-minded. Like the interesting spot about music is it's this huge open spectrum of keeping your triangle open instead of having your triangle focused at something. So Dave has always been like that, wide open about all spectrums of music, from like throat singing to crazy punk rock. It went the whole spectrum.
You know, next I really noticed like the songwriter, because I listened to all the Circle 9 stuff, and when you hear the lyrics and you read the lyrics on all these albums that he did and all the records, all the stuff he's done since, you realize this guy is just a creative genius. He'll write 50 songs and half of them will be brilliant. You know, and that's what I look at is like I've read the 200 some songs he has or whatever it is, and they're just, you know, there's something interesting in every one of them. And what really happened at the beginning of Society Fringe Players is we would kind of go back and forth from these really country influenced, short, kind of poppy 3-minute songs that were heavy, they're a little bit lighter, lyric driven, to these 7, 8, 12-minute jams. You know, we could do something like Driving Again and then go to Elvis's God, and you know, back to something and back and forth like that. And that's the other thing that shows like his, you know, the diversity and the flexibility that he has, that he can sit and write like a very poppy or quick lyrically based tune, a melodic based tune, and then go to something with, you know, 2 chords and a guitar solo.
Dave is one that will like be into anything. I mean, he would maybe dissect a Britney Spears album, you know, as much as he would like, you know, Public Enemy or something. You know, I mean, it's just, he loves music. He likes noise. He likes, you know, everything. Jazz. He appreciates music. Dave understands that all music has something to offer.
It broke up everything we did into musicals. Now this musical is called The War, so that's basically what that is for. So if you want to see where it started, that's when it started. There's not a story, you know what I mean? It's more along the lines of an expanded universe where all the characters and all the songs are in that universe, and it takes place all over time and space. There's no main character and there's no plot. There's nothing specific.
When Dave and I were playing together in college, it wasn't so much because we were, you know, drunk and 20 and we were just doing it because we were having a good time. But in our adult life of playing together, I mean, like, Dave writes songs in his sleep. I mean, who else do you know in your group of musicians that has the catalog or the ability to keep track of the catalog, even if you got to remind yourself and things like that? And it's just when you have that much inside you that needs to get out, you can't help but amass this catalog of material, and you just keep creating more because what the fuck else are you gonna do?
His whole philosophy is capture the magic. It is what it is. It's fall down the stairs rock and roll. If it sucks, then we'll retake it. But generally, you get to that magic moment when we're playing because we've played together for so long. So it's a wonderful thing.
The 2 biggest things that it's like are comic books, soap operas. You know what I mean? Because they go on forever, telling a long, convoluted story using like 3 to 4 minute pop songs. This all really started with the War Between the States by Circle 9. And
that's Civil War, right?
Yeah, the 1860s. We had the past, and then we're working travelogue. That's the present, and then the future was going to be Interstellar Bootaccular Puncharama, and that is what I'm doing now with Andy and Brian. But so we had past, present, future.
I feel like Dave's talents as a songwriter are just, you know, it's raw talent. It's undiscovered, it's untapped territory.
So we did the past, then the present was going to be a trilogy, travelogue. I just finished that up with Brian and Andy. And then the sci-fi stuff, which is, I'm doing that with Brian and Andy. The story's there if you want it, right? You can look at it as just a collection of songs, and that's all it is, just songs on records. But everything is connected, and it tells a larger story, and it's not a story specifically like what you would learn if you're taking a screenwriting class. There's not, you know, characters, conflict resolution.
Yeah, there's great people out there, and Dave is really at the top of the list for me. And you can't have the music without having these other life experiences and things that interest you, and that's what goes into the opera. Is these concepts and ideas of life. It's not pure music. It's, you know, if Elvis Presley doesn't exist, where does the concept for some of these characters come from? If Dave doesn't live in Baltimore, where does he get the experience of people being on the street or having those problems or dealing with those things in their life?
It's more like life. It just goes on and on and on and on. It's endless. It never ends. That's why I call it the never-ending opera. Hello, I'm Dave, and with me... Hey guys. So this is it. This is where we do the podcast. Every Monday and Friday, we're dropping brand new podcasts. You gotta go to our Facebook page, click on the link, download it, comment on it.
Check it out, like it, or just upload the song and check out the new songs every week. And then we got new swag, new t-shirts coming out.
T-shirts, bitches.
Next show.
If you gotta choose the music ones. They're the more important ones, more important than talking ones.
Exactly. Nobody cares about us talking about music. Get the songs. Thank you for listening.
In 2.5 years, the Society Fringe Project did a 13-act rock opera with 85 songs. Then additionally, on top of that, Dave and Lutzy and I, in that configuration of Society Fringe Players, has done 3 additional travelogues to back up Travelogue 1 from Circle 9 from the 90s. So Society Fringe Players is Dave and Brian and a whole bunch of drummers.
Go down in the history books on Tude's musical quest, his journey, and I'm excited about it because a lot of great people have played on his records and his albums and have worked with him, and I've never actually got to lay down tracks and record with him, and I'm just glad I can do this so that I can get, you know, solidify my little role in his world. So it's gonna be cool.
When you get to the level of Rolling Stones or U2 or Bob Dylan or Neil Young or Billy Joel, you know, all these guys that are still, Rod Stewart, you know, the guys that have been doing it for their entire lives, you know, they've almost gotten too big not to do it, and they can't, and then it becomes like an addiction of a different level or a different sort. But for me, and maybe this is because I am one to a certain extent, I think the ones that don't do it because they have to, because of fame and money and that keep feeding the beast, I think the ones that do it at our level in the garage for nothing, or the ones where it actually costs them money to do it, that's the true passion. Because, you know, you you just can't not do it, and it's not sustaining yourself.
Because our spectrum is just so vast. That's what I've always enjoyed about playing with Dave. It's not been one genre of music, and that's what makes you a better player. It's never been one genre. Like, you can't just go, I would just play punk rock. That's all I have. And it's like, yeah, it is, but it's even more punk to play all kinds of crazy shit. I thought it was more punk of us to go to a country bar and play punk music and then go to a punk bar and play country music. It was even, wackier to do that.
There was a point in Society Fringe Players where the Oak and Brian Brian needed a break because we did the big opera, and I wanted to do some other stuff. I wanted to do it with Porgy and Paul. I was like, come on, we got to do this. And at first, I think Paul thought we were just going to.
It was good.
I think he thought I just wanted like a demo, but I said, no, I want to do a record. Remember that?
Like, because somebody was kind of flaking out on our end, and I was like, we gotta get Dave over here. He's got like a ton of material that he needs, he'll love. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
That was like, how many years?
I was terrified.
It was years before it actually happened. It's like 2 or 3 years before it actually happened.
Paul asked me about drummers, and I said, you ought to call up Porgy.
Oh, that's right. It's full circle. I forgot that part. The reason I'm playing with you is because of him, and the reason you're playing with him is because of me.
Oh yeah, did I reach out to you?
Yes. You asked me about drummers, and I said, fucking Porgy Berry.
Think of all these goddamn local bars, except for here.
Sustaining your soul. It's not feeding you. It's not clothing you. It's not putting a roof over you. You have to go the extra mile to have a job, to feed yourself. You have to have a job to have clothes and a car to get to band practice, or new strings, new heads, new sticks, new gear, you know, whatever. So if you're doing it at our level in the garage, that means you not only do you have to be doing it, but you want to be doing it. Where the other guys might be having to do it because they need to feed that beast because they've almost gotten too big to stop.
Are you guys comfortable with the light?
Yeah. Feels good. I crave the spotlight. How long have we known each other? That's what I'm all about.
Sit over here next to Will.
Relative, but yeah, he was just always kind of like an agitator, you know, and when we used to have like really, really old home movies, David would be the one that would like block everyone else out so his face was directly in the camera, and that's not, I'm sure, not a big surprise, right? Because he does that today. But like on Facebook or like on social media.
Dave and I sat here recently in this very room, in this, what I call the jungle room, because Elvis had a jungle room. And one of my mantras is be your own king. If Elvis had a jungle room, I can have a jungle room. It's America, it's the dream. So this is my jungle room. When we sat in here and Dave had his big old jug of water and sat back and crossed his legs, and looked at me and he goes, I have a question for you. Who do you think is responsible for the wussification of rock and roll? His legs were crossed like a woman, like I'm sitting. And I kind of looked down and I said, well, Dave, I think you need to look no further than yourself. And the way you've just presented this to me, you are the personification of the wussification of rock and roll. And that's what I'd leave you with.
So, and the whole thing, the 90s rock opera is Circle 9 shit. It's not really a story per se, but more along the lines of it's like all the Marvel things. They exist on their own, but they come together to create a larger thing. Now, we're at the point where I want to play these live. You know, it's only taken 5 years to get to this point. They're written. You know?
I respect him as a person and as an artist.
Yeah. This is very, very important. When you're doing endurance training on the trails, at a certain point, they call it a runner's high, but it's, your consciousness has changed. I think it's fucking psychedelic. Man, you read stuff about people doing these ultra marathons, they start hallucinating. You know, they're drifting in and out of time, space. You know, all this kind of shit, but it's true. That's what the fucking Beatles were trying to do in '66, eating acid and writing songs. It's the same fucking deal. Altering your consciousness is, well, some artists swear by it. Look at all the fucking drunk poets throughout history, drunk philosophers. The shit is real. And the reason I like to trail running is that it ain't easy. It's like one of the harder ways to alter one's consciousness. And as Steve Earle said on his second record, hard way.
I got a name for a character. He's called Old Posty. P-O-S-T-Y. And this is the way you talk about him around the campfire. Old Posty's always walking around talking into his phone. A couple minutes later, it's posted. Yeah, that's Old Posty. Always talking into his phone and posting his thoughts.
It's been interesting to see him evolve as a human. Like as we get older, like he's 51 now. You know, it's crazy to be like know each other when we're in our 20s to now be middle-aged old people.
I've never known Dave without music. I would be surprised if Dave wasn't playing music. If you said, well, Dave isn't doing, and I've had him on my radio show, he's done acoustic shows, we've been in bands together, we've had separate bands and played the same stage together, and we've always been buddies. I mean, we got along right from the beginning. Hell, when he got hit by a car on Route 1 in College Park, I'm the guy that lighted the cigarette before put it in his mouth. The paramedic yelled at me, he goes, who gave that guy a cigarette? I said, well, I did. He's laying in the street getting rained on, man. He might as well have a smoke with the guy. Get that cigarette out of his mouth. We were hanging flyers for a show at the Paragon.
So like things change like after the Circle 9 days and being on the road and playing music to getting married and being an adult. Him being with Cassie all this time has changed him. Them rescuing animals. Like you see the softer side of Sears with Dave. Like some people just see the aggressive, angry Dave, and then when he like stopped drinking. So some people don't even know he did that because he's still kind of aggressive, but he's not like a belligerent drunk anymore. So it's interesting to see other people who used to know him as this type of thing and not know he's been sober since whatever it was, whenever Cassie and him got married, 2004, 3, somewhere in there.
Doing the Barks shows really meant a lot to me. The fact that Dave, really cares and has a cause, works with his wife on a cause that's like really cool. Dogs, he always posting pictures of the dogs. We're doing good. Like whether it's we're raising some visibility or helping a cause, raising some money, getting a home for a dog or two, or just having friends show up and have a good time. That was enough. That's enough for me.
Dave wasn't playing music, something would be wrong with Dave, and someone should go and talk to him.
If he did that, I don't know, I'd check him into a psychiatric facility.
I can't.
I would think that something was seriously the matter.
Yeah, like seriously, like a serious injury or something that made him think
something
different. So
something tragic, because I don't think that he would be happy without his music.
Well, it would never happen. That'd be like saying the sun's done shining today. The sun's not coming up this morning.
That'd be like saying bears don't shit in the woods. I mean, come on.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't think he would survive actually, because it's not just playing music; it's listening to music and like.
That's what he needs to be doing. I mean, if there was anyone that was meant to play music, or meant to write music, or meant to express himself musically, I mean, it's Dave.
What I learned through the years when I saw other people talk to David about his music and what they liked about it, I think it's just because there are like some of the catchiest songs ever. Like things that people really want to hear. But then he could do something that maybe is a little darker or more serious, but it's just a really diverse musical taste, and I think that's reflected in the music that he makes.
I'll introduce him to somebody, like, who's that guy, like, who's not from Gainesville, that's like, he's like the Neil Young of Gainesville, man. He's an outlaw, man. He's like Neil Young, Waylon Jennings, and Patterson Hood from God by Truckers kind of rolled into one. He's an outlaw, and I think that kind of comes across that way too when you hear the music.
So I knew Dave, back in the early 90s, and then through them we just became good friends and got a lot of respect for him as a musician. I love he's our outlaw country boy, man, but he's rock and roll as a motherfucker, so nothing but love for Dave Linantud.
The other thing that I always remember about Dave, aside from the music, is what a big Baltimore sports fan he is. I mean, one of the biggest Ravens fans I've ever known. I always remember this one story. We used to, back in the early days, right when they moved from Memorial Stadium into the new stadium, M&T Bank, we used to come down here first and then take the buses. Stevie would rent school buses and be taken down to the stadium. And I remember it was the year when they kind of were 500 the first year, they're 8-8, and then they go in and they win the Super Bowl next year. And we went to the home opener against Jacksonville. We had never beaten before. And we come back and win the game. It was such a joy to sit there. He knows a lot about football, like just talking through play action and what they should do here and there. And I always remember I don't know if he still has it, that leather Ravens baseball hat. It was such a signature for him with the old logo on it, man. I always love that, man. Change logos and all that stuff, but he's still with that thing now. I love it. Just a huge Orioles fan, a huge Ravens fan. Just a Baltimore guy, just down to the earth, salt of the earth Baltimore guy.
I just respect Dave. I respect his songwriting. I respect what he does. But Dave was always open to creativity and and what you're gonna do and what he was cool with everything. Songwriting wise, he's to me the best as far as Catonsville people go. He's the best. And he's the only person that I remember playing with as far as Society Fringe Players, and when he dived into the opera, it was like I remember like just actually focusing on the lyrics and thinking about the lyrics and seeing exactly what he was doing, and it was like a movie, like seeing a movie in my head, and like there's not many people that can do that.
I don't know if people realize how smart he is. He's he's really smart, and how he is he's just super authentic to whatever he like. He's never tried to be anything that he wasn't, regardless of like what was popular at the time or who's listening to what or who's wearing what. Like, he didn't care. And I think that's kind of remarkable, because a lot of people aren't like that. They just kind of go into, or they think this is cool, they'll do this. They think that's cool, they'll do that. He was never affected by any of that. He was just himself, like through and through, all the way.
Here's what playing music with Dave Tude, lennon-dude, for about more than half my life means to me. It has taught me. It has taught me that I'm never done playing music.
I don't know if I'd be playing. I don't think I would be playing if it wasn't for Dave. If Dave didn't reach out to me and be like, hey, you want to play? I don't think I would be playing.
He was the leader of the band. He's the leader of the band.
Right.
If Catonsville is the band, he was.
But I feel like I feel like he's the first person I remember seeing, the first person I remember like writing original music, and he's like, he doesn't like cater to the cover shit or the business aspect of anything. He's just like, do what you want to do, be creative, and I love that. Like, I love that about Dave. That's actually my favorite thing about Dave, and that he's a good person.
And look at the longevity. That's the other thing. How long he's been doing it. How long he's been continuing to do it.
How long is this beard?
I don't know. I mean, those runs that he does. He runs like a maniac.
He runs, he's like at Patapsco State Park all the time.
He's like fucking Buddha.
I think David is talented. I think that he has. I think he's a good guitar player, and he taught himself. And I think that he has his creative juices are flowing when he writes what he writes. And he's wrote a couple of really poignant songs were about Lois, my sister Lois, and she died. And
there's always this big picture, like, we want to like expose this music and everything, but it really just comes down to is, hey, if we can get a bunch of friends together and have a good time over music, that's all it really needs.
It's been that rock and roll lifestyle the entire time I've been. Come on,
It's got to get out of him. He can't help it. He's got to write.
He's got to write. It's exactly, and he'll never stop. The guy will never stop.
That's like Neil and Dylan. They just got to get it out of them. That's in there.
Dave Linantud has been ever present, and regardless of what the hell anybody else is doing, he's like doing his shit. He's doing his thing, and that has a continuity. I remember Dave was a complete introvert when it came to singing and playing. Dave taught me how to do that. He helped me find a confidence. It was down the Ocean City. It was 87 or 88, I don't remember what. And it was just like this mentoring that happened. And I think, what Dave did was serve as a model for me, and so on. And so there's that inheriting, that happens as well. You model after your big brother and your cousin, and then it just kind of trickles down.
And I think him getting me involved got you involved,
and Ryan,
all the cousins involved,
and then Andy Schneider, Dan Schneider.
And then it just trickled down into this massive.
You're talking about a million other musicians around Catonsville doing this or that, but Dave was like the song guy that wrote the song, was a songwriter. He was doing original music, whereas everybody else at Catonsville, they were all cover bands. So, I mean, we looked at that and like, and then when Sporadic Sun Jam formed, we were like, we'll keep doing a couple covers here.
I mean, the cover bands are fun, but when you can actually write your own shit and have it sound good, like Tude, that's even more.
Yeah, and the man is gifted.
Dave's family, man. Everybody, like Miss Linantud, Dr. Linantud, Laura, Jenny, his brother. Everybody is just very supportive. It was wonderful, man. Where the rest of us. I mean, you guys had very supportive families too. You guys were awesome. I didn't have quite the same thing. But I think Paul kind of did. But like a lot of people aren't that supportive. Like the Linantuds would let people come into their house and fucking made up these parties and like it was awesome. And they always supported everything all along. So like Dave came from like a really cool place where he was. It was cool to meet him. When I, being a stranger coming to Catonsville and getting to know you guys and know Dave and the Linantud family. And it's just like, man, Dave's a very fucking crazy talented dude, man.
Talking about Dave?
Oh no!
Oh, I love Dave.
I
just crawled up from hell.
Yeah.
Oh,
it smells like it.
Is this seat taken?
Oh
man! Cheers, Dave. You've written some of the best songs I've ever heard, and
You want to hear my balls sing them?
Yes.
Because who I got my first guitar from was my brother got it. He got it from Madej Hood. So how's the Madej Hood connection? Well, Madej's connected to Tude. So Madej gives Todd a guitar. Todd never played the guitar, so I played it all the time. My brother, I played his guitar.
You learned every REM song.
And then you came over and started teaching me how to play chords, how to do chords, and then from there I just could never put it down. I was skateboarding.
Tude started all that.
Yeah, he did.
He gave me a sheet of paper, said, here's where you put your fingers and hit the guitar. Now, I could have just said, oh, fuck that, put the piece of paper and guitar in a closet and never did anything. It was like, imagine where this town would be without Tude.
Yeah.
With no Tude, there's no fucking Catonsville music.
Exactly. There's no music scene. Other than you might have had.
Tude made the music scene here. In my opinion, that's the fucking
He's the godfather.
Yeah.
Yes, the Holy Ghost, you said
They might have
Is this
Tude
interview
versus
over?
Paul.
I'm out of here.
Paul. Sounds kind of lame.
Take one.
Dave, happy birthday. Oh, it says birthday? What the fuck am I doing this for?
Take two.
Dave, congratulations on this award. What did he do? Didn't he win an award? He did. I thought he won an award.
Take three.
Oh, yeah. We'll always have Acapulco, Dave. We'll always have Acapulco.
So he's
Oh,
going to
God,
Panama.
I'm
He's
sorry.
going to Panama.
Take four.
Dude, if there's a Mount Rushmore at Catonsville, there'd be like 4 heads of you. Just Dave 4 times.
Young Dave.
Young Dave.
Mount Rock.
And Baby Yoda at the end.
See? It's a D for Dave.